Over the past year, I've been engaged in a bit of a madcap project, which is trying to tell the history of India through 50 individual lives. And one thing that struck me as I've been traveling and researching across India is the utter centrality of textiles and fabric, not just to the history, but to the contemporary texture of India. Last week, I went from Surat, one of the homes of indigo dyeing and weaving, to Ahmedabad, where Gandhi set up his ashram and where he actually advocated for the first time, khadi or hand-spun, hand-woven cloth. And then it was on to Bombay, the 19th century cottonopolis of India, where the Indian mill industry was born in the wake of the cotton shortage caused by the American Civil War. And after clambering through carcasses of old mills, the ones that haven't yet been turned into shopping malls in Bombay, I later found myself outside the gates of the world's largest private house, 27 stories high, belonging to India's wealthiest family, the Ambanis. And this too was a tower built of textiles, in this case polyester. And it looms, I think, to remind us of how closely Indian textiles and power are linked. What's woven in India has, over long centuries, created empires. It's inspired India's freedom movement. And more lately, it's also increased inequality and corruption, and it's brought down elected governments as well. But I think what this splendid and ambitious exhibition also brings out, and for me, in a much more usefully contextualized way than, for instance, the Met's 2013 show on the interwoven globe, what it brings out for me is the centrality of Indian textiles to the world as a whole. The chintzes, the calicos, and paisleys made for Europe, the Madras checks exported to West Africa, the double-ikat patolas traded in Southeast Asia, and the striking kimono pieces that were made on the Coromandel Coast for Japan. Indian weavers and printers proved able to satisfy local tastes while keeping a keen eye on foreign ones. They had a gift for what we'd later call fashion, while not compromising their fundamental skills, nor losing their aesthetic compass. But India's connection to the world through textiles didn't always result in things of beauty. It helped lead to colonization, and a colonization which paradoxically but ineluctably decimated the very industry that had given Indian artisans their stature around the world. And hence, I think, the importance of museum collections, not as dormant archives, but as living encyclopedias from which it might be possible to revive the making of fine textiles in India. This regeneration began first with collections. Back in the day, it was Gira Sarabhai and the Calico Museum in Ahmedabad, Krishna Ribu in Paris, and then in the 1970s, Pupul Jayakar, Martin Singh, and my own sister Asha Sarabhai, who's here this evening. And I remember many years ago coming into the study rooms of the V&A, this incredible collection that you have, some of which we are privileged to see this evening, coming into the study rooms of the V&A with Asha and Martin Singh to look at the Forbes Watson volumes, the great 19th century fabric books, kefir with cloth, if you like, and being amazed not just by the richness of the fabrics, but the care of the documentation. The great initiatives that have brought life back to India's textiles are made possible in part through the rediscovery of wonders held in museums like this one above all. And with the V&A, I think, at the heart of that. And there's a simple and brutal reason for this, because so much of the capacity to make these wonders was systematically destroyed by Lancashire mill owners, by imperial policymakers. The regeneration of Indian textiles was also inspired, and certainly I think for those who started that work in India in the 1970s and 80s, by a deep sense that one had to find livelihoods for communities who depended on making textiles, but who no longer had markets for their skills. And there have been successes in that direction, but there's still a long way to go. Earlier in the year, I was in Benares, in Varanasi, in an unglamorous neighborhood called Bajhardia, which is home to the city's poor Muslim weavers. You see them stretching out their yarn over piles of garbage as goats work hard to eat down those piles around them. And sitting in the cramped rooms, weavers talk about how they were first undercut by power looms, then by cheap Chinese yarns, and how now they're being impoverished by WhatsApp, which allows traders to flash sari designs from the Benares weavers to Surat print shops, which can mass produce those same saris at a quarter of the price of the hand-woven pieces. So there's beauty, but I think as well a certain economic barbarity bound up in the history and contemporary life of Indian textiles. And I guess my question, perhaps not for this evening, but for us as we absorb the wonders of this show, is this one, which is how can we, in our own choices and daily practices, the fashions of what we wear, make some difference? But of course, that's not my question. That was Gandhi's question and challenge, and it was one rooted in the lives of those who did and still do make the fabric of India. Thank you.